In this video, we look at the biggest mistakes in some of the most popular, or rather, some of your favorite science fiction movies. Movies are indeed one of the most important inventions of mankind. From medieval day plays to modern day films, storytelling has always been a powerful tool in shaping the society. And with the invention of movies, we can now visually experience worlds beyond our imagination. Science fiction, better known as sci-fi, has been at the forefront of this revolution, paving the way for us to understand complex physics through simple storytelling. Today, sci-fi movies continue to inspire and motivate us to explore the mysteries of the universe. But with artistic freedom comes a certain level of inaccuracy. From black holes to time travel, let's look at the things portrayed inaccurately in these films. My name is Siddharth, and you're watching The World of Science. These giant creatures from millions of years ago suddenly became a household name when the first Jurassic Park movie was released in 1993. The movie showed Brachiosaurus and Tyrannosaurus, two of the most famous dinosaurs of all time. But recent studies have shown that these creatures might not have actually looked like the way we had imagined them. Paleontologists have found new fossils that revealed interesting facts about these mega creatures. For instance, T-Rex was not a grey, hairless predator, but instead a colorful bird-like being with feathers on its head, neck and tail. And scientists are not even sure what a T-Rex would have sounded like, and instead of roaring, it could have cooed like birds. But that's not all. The raptors that were shown as vicious predators in the movies may not have been as big as we thought, and they had wings too. And our beloved velociraptors were shown to be as big as humans, but they were just really the size of normal dogs. Can we really clone a dinosaur as shown in the movie? Paleontologist Steve Brusatte doesn't think so. He believes that to clone a dinosaur, we need the whole genome, which is almost impossible to obtain. But the idea of cloning dinosaurs makes for a fantastic topic to explore. The movie Gravity, starring George Clooney and Sandra Bullock, was one of the most celebrated sci-fi films of its time. But we're talking about inaccuracies, right? Science blogger Phil Plait, also known as the Bad Astronomer, pointed out some of the flaws in the scientific representations of this film. For instance, the movie portrayed the effects of gravity on objects in space the same way it does on Earth, which is not the case. In space, objects are in a state of free fall, which means that the gravitational pull does not pull them in any direction. So Clooney's character could have survived without sacrificing himself in order to save Bullock's character, as they were already in free fall and there was no weight for Bullock's character to even bear, and just with a small tug, she could have pulled Clooney toward herself and they both could have managed to reach the Earth. Moreover, the movie does not account for different orbital speeds of objects at different heights from the Earth's surface. To move from one object to another, like in this case from the ISS to the Chinese station Tiangong, which by the way was used by Bullock's character to reach Earth, the two must have matching velocities. Even orbits can be inclined to each other, as in this case, Tiangong was inclined 10 degrees from ISS, and one cannot merely reach there by means of soft landing rockets as shown in the movie. So while the movie Gravity might have been an entertaining cinematic experience, it did have scientific shortcomings. Imagine being able to access the full potential of your brain and achieving superhuman capabilities. Sounds like a scene from a science fiction movie, right? Well, that's exactly what the film Lucy portrays, a woman who unlocks the power of her brain and becomes unstoppable when exposed to a potent drug. But is there any truth to using only 10% of our brain and unlocking the remaining 90%?
Excuse me, sir.
Yes.
But what would happen if, for some reason, we ignore somebody unlocked 100% of the cerebral capacity?
The answer is a resounding no. Neurologists have debunked this myth time and time again, and still it persists in pop culture. In fact, we use virtually every part of our brain, and most of them remain active all the time. So the idea that we have massive reserves of untapped brain power ready to be unleashed is laughable. This myth originated from a quote by American psychologist William James in his work The Energies of Men, who claimed that we use only a very small portion of our mental and physical resources. But that's a generic statement and not a scientific fact. So while the idea of unlocking our full brain potential and becoming superhumans is a fun fantasy, the reality is that we already use almost all of our brains, and there is no magical shortcut to becoming a superhero.
I absorbed a large quantity of synthetic CPH4 that will allow me to use 100% of my cerebral capacity.
If Batman is the brooding Dark Knight, then Tony Stark, aka Iron Man, is the witty and charismatic superhero of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. With his unmatched intelligence, cutting-edge technology, and an unlimited supply of snarky one-liners, Tony Stark is the force to be reckoned with. And not just that, Tony Stark takes it to the next level with his scientific genius. When Stark was captured in Afghanistan, he just didn't sit around waiting for rescue. Oh no, he built an arc reactor inside a cave. Yes, you heard that right, in a cave. And if that wasn't enough, he later on went on to build a time-traveling device. I mean, can your favorite superhero do that? But what makes Iron Man truly fascinating is the level of advancement that Stark Industries has achieved. Jarvis and holographic projections may soon become a reality, but creating an entirely new element inside a garage? Now that's a whole new ballgame. In the second movie, to get rid of the poisonous palladium in his suit, Stark had to look for a new element. And guess where he got the idea? By studying the map of the Stark Expo. This leads him to the particle accelerator, like the Large Hadron Collider in Geneva, Switzerland. Now, you might be wondering, how does a particle accelerator work? Well, to put it simply, it smashes the nuclei of two particles and sometimes a new element is created. But creating a new element through particle acceleration isn't as easy as it seems. These elements can only exist for a fraction of a second before disintegrating, and creating a powerful particle accelerator requires massive magnetic arrangement, something that this movie doesn't quite show. Plus, let's not forget that Stark is walking around with an arc reactor in his chest, which means he is already exposed to an enormous amount of radiation. Overall, the science behind Iron Man may not be 100% accurate, it's still pretty cool to watch. Welcome to the world of The Matrix. This movie is a sci-fi masterpiece that combines dystopia, science and mythology into one epic adventure. And let's be honest, who doesn't love a good sci-fi flick? In the movie, our hero Neo wakes up to a shocking realization that the world is controlled by machines and humans are being used as an energy source for these machines. Can you imagine waking up to that kind of nightmare? And here's where things get a bit tricky. How can machines use humans as a source of energy? Morpheus explains that the human body generates more electricity than a 120-volt battery. But hold up a minute, because the laws of thermodynamics tell us that energy cannot be created out of nothing. In fact, to generate energy, we have to feed something into the system first. The human body is not a source of energy, it's actually a sink. To stay alive, we need a certain amount of calories, or basically energy per day. As a matter of fact, the human body produces less energy than it consumes. So if machines were using humans as an energy source, they would have to actually supply more energy to produce less energy, and it is not economical from any perspective, and it doesn't make any sense. But maybe there's more to the story. Perhaps the machines have invented some low-cost energy source to keep the humans alive. We can speculate all day long, but the truth is, we do not have a clear answer. The movie doesn't much focus on the science behind the human batteries, and maybe that's for the best. Anyway, we're there for the action, the mystery, and the mind-bending plot twists. When we hear phrases like Big Bang or black holes, our minds create images of massive explosions and dark sinkholes. But the reality is far more complex and nuanced than what we see in TV shows or movies. The Big Bang was neither big nor a bang, as it was not a singular explosion event. In fact, it was the expansion of the universe over billions of years. Black holes are not just dark voids, but incredibly complex 4D structures that bend time and space in ways we are still struggling to understand. And we often imagine aliens as greenish-blue humanoids, but the reality is that they could have completely different DNA and characteristics than anything we have ever seen on Earth. We can't blame movies and videos for these misconceptions, as they help us grasp complex concepts in a simplified manner. However, it is our responsibility to dig deeper and understand the entire process instead of settling for these superficial ideas. Movies and TV shows may not always get the science right, but they can inspire us to learn more and explore the unknown. Who knows, maybe one day we might discover something that was once thought to be impossible, just like how 2001: A Space Odyssey inspired us to imagine landing on the moon even before it became a reality. So what's your favorite science fiction movie? Let us know in the comments. If you want us to keep creating such content, could you please show your support using the super thanks option below? Even the smallest contribution you can make will go a long way, because it's supporters like you who help us make science more easy and fun than it has ever been. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you subscribe to the World of Science. Until next time, stay scientific.